In 1905, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur took a vow to chant 1 billion names of Krishna. And the way he decided to do it is he was going to chant 3 lakhs every day. That means, following in the footsteps of Srila Haridas Thakur, he was chanting minimum of 192 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra each day. And he was residing at the Yoga Pith, the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadwip, Mayapur. And for 4 continuous years, he was chanting like this. And then they were given some land at the place of the house of Chandrasekhar Acharya, which is called Brajapatana. And then he moved there, near the bank of the Ganges, and he was living in a little hut. And for 9 years, he remained in Mayapur, chanting 192 rounds every day, until he finally completed his vow of chanting 1 billion names of Krishna. He was also following Chaturmasya at the time, where he would sleep on the ground with nothing between him and the ground, no pillow. He would cook some little rice and dal khichdi every day with his own hands, and he would eat it like a cow. He would put it on the ground with no plate or thali. And then he would put his hands behind his back, and he would bow down, and he would put his head down to the ground, and whatever he could eat before having to take air, and sit up. As soon as he sat up, he was finished until the next day. He did this for 9 years, Chaturmasya. And sometimes it was raining during the monsoons. In Mayapur, Bengal, it floods sometimes during monsoons. And the roof would leak, and he would sit with an umbrella in his hut, loudly chanting the holy name. Actually, just before this happened, one great devotee from Vrindavan named Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji came to Navadwip. He was a disciple of Bhagavad Das Babaji, who was a disciple of Jagannath Das Babaji. And when he came to Navadwip, he was wearing a tiger skin hat. And he had a little basket with all kinds of prasad articles from Vrindavan. And when he first came, he saw Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he gave him his hat, which was actually a gift given by his guru. And he also gave him a little stamp for tilak with the names of Krishna. And he gave him a piece of rope with knots in it to chant japa. And Saraswati Thakur became very much attracted to Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji's devotion. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur told his son that you should take formal initiation from Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji. Because without initiation from a proper spiritual master, you cannot make proper spiritual progress. Because that connection of the mercy of the Lord is imparted to us through the process of Diksha. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati approached Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji, and with great humility and devotion, he requested that he give him initiation. But Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji had never initiated anyone in his whole life. And he had absolutely no intention on anyone initiating. And besides that, Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji was illiterate. He could not even write his own name. And he could hardly read. And Saraswati Thakur was the most learned scholar in all the world. How can I be your spiritual master? You are so highly educated, and I am so simple. But Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati explained in reply that all education, all knowledge, all learning of the scriptures, it is all useless unless we are using it all in the service of a great soul like you. So if you will, kindly accept me. So Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji refused out of humility. But Thakur Bhaktivinoda insisted to Bhakti Siddhanta that you must take initiation. So he came back, and with so much genuine humility and devotion, he requested Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji, who replied, I have not initiated anyone in all my life. I have no intentions, but if you ask me so sincerely, I will personally ask Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when I next talk to him. So sometime later, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta came to Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji and said, did you talk with Lord Chaitanya? And Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji replied, yes, I spoke with him. Well, what did he say? I forgot to ask him about you. Next time, please ask him, yes. And then the next time he came, he asked Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji, what did Lord Chaitanya said? Gaura Kishore said, he told me that I didn't have to initiate you. And then Bhakti Siddhanta began to cry. He began to weep tears of such genuine humility. And he said, I am so fallen. I am not deserving the mercy of the Lord. I am not deserving your mercy. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives like you have come to give mercy to the most fallen. But I am so fallen, I am so lonely, that I have no right to your mercy. Therefore, without the mercy of the Lord, what is the use of life? I have no reason to go on living. Without the spiritual master and without the mercy of the Lord, this human existence is just a dreary void. In this way, before Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji, in a puddle of tears, he decided to end his life. And when Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji saw the genuine sincerity of his eagerness to surrender to the Lord and to receive his mercy, he told him, I will give you initiation on this day. You go to the river Saraswati and take your bath and come back. So he took his bath in the river, and on that holy day, Srila Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji gave him initiation. And throughout his life, he never gave another person initiation. One time in Navadwip, people were criticizing the Gaudiya Vaishnavas because in their Gayatri they had a Gaur Gayatri mantra. For those of you who are second initiated, you know the Gaur Gayatri mantra. There are two. They were saying this is not authorized because they did not believe that Lord Chaitanya was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They accepted him as a great prophet, a great teacher, an empowered sannyasi. But what makes you think that he is God? And this was going around not only in Navadvip, but even in Vrindavan. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati organized a lecture and a debate in the town of Navadvip. And there he very forcefully explained, according to scripture, how Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he quoted from the Atharva Veda, Chaitanya Upanishad. He quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, Sveta Svatara Upanishad. He quoted from so many varieties of scriptures that he irrefutably established that Lord Chaitanya is the Yuga Avatar and is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And no one could possibly speak anything against him. But something very special happened. In that assembly, as he was speaking, hiding in a corner, nobody saw, was the spiritual master, Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji, listening to the words of his disciple. Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji was so proud and pleased. He called him Prabhu. He was praising his Prabhu, his disciple. And when he saw the austerities and the knowledge of Bhakti Siddhanta, Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji would say, such austerities, such knowledge is truly on the merit of Srila Rupa and Raghunath Das Goswami. this is my Prabhu. In the year of 1914, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur disappeared from this world at the Bhakti Bhavan in Calcutta. And in the year of 1915, Srila Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji disappeared from this world. He was living in Kulia, which is the modern-day Navadwip. Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji was the very living embodiment of renunciation. As you all know, just to keep away from materialistic people bothering him for material benedictions, he would go into places that materialists would never want to go. You should approach a sadhu with the desire to hear the truth, with the desire to serve, not with the desire to gain material benedictions or solve your materialistic problems. Sadhus have no patience for these things. But materialistic society, they always want these things. So Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji would sometimes do his bhajan in the latrine where people would go to pass stool and urine, where nobody would want to go. He was so renounced, so pure, always absorbed and completely immersed in chanting the holy names. He was so transcendently situated that sometimes he would just eat the mud from the Ganges as his prasad. But when he left his body, everyone knew what a great Paramhamsa he was. And all the Babajis of Navadwip, they all wanted to claim his body because they all wanted to make his samadhi. Because they knew Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji is the #1 most famous Babaji and Paramhamsa in all the land. And whoever has his samadhi, people will come to see it and they will give money as donations. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he was living across in Mayapur Dham. While he was in Mayapur, as you know, Bhaktivinoda Thakur discovered Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. And it was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati that actually built the temple and excavated the grounds. As they were digging the ground, they found the deity of Adhokshaja Vishnu, the original deity that Lord Chaitanya's family worshipped. It is still in the temple today. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur took a boat across the river Ganges, and he came to Kulia. And there was a big debate, who was going to get Gaura Kishore's body? And there were police constables there, because they were so afraid there was going to be violence. And Bhakti Siddhanta said, I will take his body. And the Babaji said, this is bogus, this is nonsense. Because at that time, Bhakti Siddhanta was still a brahmachari. They said, you are not a Babaji. You are not a sannyasi. How can you touch the body of a Babaji? We are Babajis. We deserve the body of Babaji. Bhakti Siddhanta said, I am his only disciple. And I am the only one amongst you who is following his teachings. He said, my Guru Maharaj is absolutely pure. And only someone who is as pure as him can touch him. So amongst you Babajis, any of you who have not had illicit sex with a woman, because Babajis are supposed to be totally renounced, within 1 year you come and take his body. If you have not had sex within 1 month, you come and take his body. Within 1 week you could come and take his body. Any of you here who have not touched a woman within 3 days can come touch his body. And the police inspectors, they said to Bhakti Siddhanta, should we do an investigation to find out who has done what? Bhakti Siddhanta was so bold and he was so grave, he stood before all of them, no need for investigation. I will take their word. But they were so fearful, because they all knew they were guilty, that every one of the Babajis, one by one, turned their backs and walked away. And the police and the people in general were shocked. And then some of the people said, Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji, before he left this world, he asked us that when he died, we should drag his body through the streets of Navadwip. And Bhakti Siddhanta said, this is his humility. He is trying to teach us the principle of humility. But my Guru Maharaj, his body is fit to be held by the hands of God himself, not to be dragged through the streets. When Haridas Thakur left this world, Lord Chaitanya personally picked up that body and danced in ecstasy with it. This is the caliber of my Guru Maharaj. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati made a beautiful samadhi for Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji in Kulia. And 16 years later, because of floods and the changing of the current of the Ganges, he brought the whole samadhi to Mayapur, where it is situated today on the banks of Sri Radha Kund at Chandrasekhar Bhavan. Actually, that day is very special in many ways. Just before Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji left his body, he was giving lectures in Kulia. And one very intelligent young man from Calcutta, he came to hear Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji speaking. And when he asked him more questions, Gaura Kishore told him, "You should go to Siddhanta Saraswati, because he is my guru." Here is the guru calling his disciple his guru. This was the humility of Gaura Kishore. So this person, his name later became Kunja Bihari Vidyabhushan. He went to hear Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur speak, and by hearing him he became completely convinced. He was working in Calcutta, and Bhakti Siddhanta told him, "Take leave and come and be with me for some time, for some months." So the day he got his leave, he arrived in Kulia, and it was the day that Gaura Kishore left. And he witnessed all of this. And he was telling Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, "You should leave Mayapur, you should preach. You should preach to the world. The world needs your message." And this echoed the words of Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's heart. When he took initiation from Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji, and throughout their relationship, Gaura Kishore said, "You should preach the absolute truth of Lord Chaitanya's teachings everywhere, and you should have no other business and no other disturbance than this." And it was Bhaktivinoda Thakur's dream that the message of Lord Chaitanya be spread throughout the world. But after Bhaktivinoda and Gaura Kishore left this world, Bhakti Siddhanta was plunged in such an ocean of transcendental ecstatic separation. He didn't feel he had any power to preach. And besides that, he had no money, he had no contacts, he had nothing. How was he going to preach? But one night, he had a vision, a dream. And in this dream, the Panchatattva, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar, Srivasana Dvaita, they all stood before him. And along with the Panchatattva were the associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all dancing and chanting in transcendental kirtan. And standing besides Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and all the associates of the Lord were Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jagannath Das Babaji, and Srila Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji. And they all together spoke to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And they told him, "Go out and preach. We are with you. We will never leave you. We will empower you. You have our blessings. All contacts, all support, everything will come. You just go out and preach and know for certain that our blessings, our power, and our very presence will never leave you." After this vision, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati understood that it was time for him to fulfill the mission of his life. This dream is very similar to Srila Prabhupada. When Srila Prabhupada was on the Jaladuta at the age of 70, crossing the Atlantic Ocean on a cargo ship, going to America, he had no support, he had no contacts, he had nothing, no money. He was in the same situation as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. He just had 2 or 3 heart attacks, and he had the same type of vision, where Krishna with all the incarnations were on a boat and told him, "We will bring you across the Atlantic. We will always be with you to fulfill your mission." So Kunja Bihari Vidyabhushan, who later became known as Srila Bhaktivinoda Tirtha Maharaj. After he initiated Kunja Bihari Vidyabhushan and some others, and he understood he was going to leave Mayapur and start traveling and preaching, he decided it was necessary for him to take sannyas. Now, who could give him sannyas? Usually you take sannyas from your guru, but his guru had disappeared. When the guru is not there, you take sannyas from your godbrothers who are sannyasis, but he was the only disciple. He had no godbrothers. And there was hardly anyone who was actually representing the pure teachings except his line. So it was in the day of Gaura Purnima that he, 1918, he placed a picture of Gaura Kishore Dasa Babaji in front of him, and he took the vows of sannyas according to the rituals and the principles of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. He took his danda, took the mantra, made his vows, performed the yajna in the presence of his Guru Maharaj's picture. And it was from that day that he officially became known as Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami. And then he went to Calcutta and began his preaching.
You were listening to Radhanath Swami on thesacredconnect.com.